This is a presentation titled Pluralistic Approaches to Language Learning, Sample Projects for Language Education in Diversity, authored by Olga Ivanova and Vega Llorente. According to a framework of reference for pluralistic approaches to languages and cultures, pluralistic approaches are didactic approaches involving more than one language and cultural varieties in the learning process. They are different to singular approaches, which are concerned with one language and cultural variety taken separately. As a result, pluralistic approaches value learners' language proficiency. Pluralistic approaches are fundamentally aimed at giving an educational response to the challenge of the diversity of languages spoken. They provide for new educational demands, which look for securing the establishment of pluralistic views and an intercultural understanding of a multicultural social environment, giving a practical answer to the issues of linguistic diversity. The idea of pluralistic approaches is decidedly related to the notion of plurilingual and pluricultural competence. Safer defines it as the ability to use languages for the purposes of communication and to take part in intercultural interaction. In accordance with this definition, FREPA sets forth a range of knowledge, attitudes, and skills that learners ought to develop in order to improve their plurilingual and pluricultural competence. In due course, pluralistic approach involve these knowledge, attitudes, and skills as target comments of the learning process. FREPA and other didactic materials available from the European Centre for Modern Languages provide resources for application of pluralistic approaches. However, their practical engagement is still restricted to one-off cases owing to the matter of integration of pluralistic approaches into educational curricula and to methodological doubts that language teachers may have relative to their implementation. The latter reason may be amended thereon good experimental practices. This paper aims to share the experience that the Salamanca Plurilingue group made of teachers from the Official School of Languages of Salamanca and their external collaborators has developed in application of pluralistic approaches. It is about 3 projects based on the FREPA postulates and compatible with different curricular profiles in view of their extracurricular accessibility. Each project is primarily based on one of 4 pluralistic approaches, in such a way that descriptions display clearly what the methodological features of each pluralistic approach are. There are 4 pluralistic approaches: the intercultural approach, integrated didactics, intercomprehension of related languages, and awakening to languages. Pluralistic approaches vary in terms of goals, objectives, and expected outcomes, though all of them contribute to the development of plurilingual and pluricultural competence. Separate application of approaches is possible but uncommon, as intercultural approach will usually go with any didactic proposal involving more than one language. This is the case of our projects, which are primarily based on one pluralistic approach, but acknowledge interculturality and make space for pluralistic introspections. The 3 projects were created in response to lack of reference to learners' linguistic and cultural experiences in the Spanish educational system. In line with SURFER, these projects intend to educate learners as intercultural speakers and to make them think about language acquisition. Their chief goals are to make learners identify and understand and know languages, think over communicative and comprehension strategies, know how to use competences in one language for understanding other languages, know that relying on similarities among language facilitates language acquisition, know differences and similarities among different cultures, know how to formulate hypotheses about structures and functioning of a language on the basis of simultaneous observation of some languages, know that cultural differences may cause difficulties in communication and interaction, know how to explain misunderstanding, and how to negotiate. Their comprehensive intention is to make learners aware about their capacity to understand and interact, in order to prepare them for the daily multilingualism. Awakening to Languages concerns languages which the school does not set out to teach, and is aimed at introducing learners into linguistic diversity. Didactic activities based on this approach involve all languages proceeding from the learner setting. Its purpose is to contribute to the development of positive attitudes towards multilingualism and multiculturalism, and to provide learners with primary learning strategies. Awakening to Languages project is an example of application of the Awakening to Languages approach. Created and implemented by Vega Llorente, Magdalena Iglesias, Teresa Vicente, Benimar Garcia, and Miguel Ángel Blever, this project makes a 60 minutes activity aimed at the primary school pupils between 7 and 9 years old. It involves 5 target languages: French, Italian, German, English, and Portuguese, Spanish, and all language varieties owned to learners. This project has been implemented since December 2009 till May 2013. The objective of El Despertar a las Lenguas is to prepare pupils to linguistic and cultural diversity. Learners are divided into 5 groups and adopt different nationalities: French, Italian, German, British, and Portuguese. They travel around Europe and learn greetings and farewells in 5 languages. Finally, they know cultural customs of different European countries and sing in different languages. In this way, they learn that it is necessary, funny, and even easy to study languages and to be in contact with people from other cultures. El Despertar a las Lenguas includes 5 stages. Distribution of nationalities. Pupils are divided into 5 groups, differentiated by national flags. Acquaintance with Europe. Pupils enter into a hall with a map of Europe drawn on the floor. They have to recognize different European countries and languages spoken in each of them. Becoming familiar with new languages and nationalities. Pupils learn to greet and farewell in 5 languages. A trip around Europe. Pupils are tourists traveling from one country to another. They greet their hosts in the language of the host country. Speaking about customs. Pupils are taught about how Christmas and birthdays are celebrated in each country. At the end, they think in all languages. Integrated didactics sets a prospective focus on languages studied at school. Its aim is to make learners associate a number of languages which are expected to be taught. The known languages are used as facilitators of acquisition of new languages, and thus promote a continuous comparison of language systems. Integrated didactics is frequently appealed to in school curricula, as it may be an effective way to develop language consciousness. In extracurricular practice, it has been applied in the Discovery of Plurilingual and Intercultural Skills project, designed and performed by Vega Llorente, Magdalena Iglesias, Teresa Vicente, Benimar Garcia, and Miguel Ángel Blever. This 90 minutes activity, titled in Spanish Descubre tus habilidades plurilingües e interculturales, also considers the other 3 pluralistic approaches, and is directed to young teenagers of 13 and 14 years old, involving but for Spanish, French, Italian, German and English, Croatian, and invented languages. The chief idea of this project stands for acquisition of languages after languages. It states that it is easy to understand and learn new languages after the language is already known. The project includes 3 stages. It is easy to understand and learn languages if I speak Spanish and English. Learners are divided into 4 groups and gather to 4 teachers around separate tables. They do a multilingual puzzle of phrases from different languages and correct their answers with the coordinator. language teachers would explain learners how to pronounce phrases in all languages. It is easy to get on, even if we speak different languages. Communicative strategies. Learners watch a fragment from the Un Franco 14 Pesetas movie, which speaks about Spanish emigration in Switzerland in the 1960s. This is an activity for audiovisual comprehension of 4 languages, from which 3, French, Italian, and German, are initially unknown to learners. Pupils are expected to understand the fragment after their skills in other languages and through applying comprehension strategies. It is particularly stressed on the necessity to be cognizant of some peculiarities of the native culture relative to customs from other cultures, in order to avoid misunderstandings. The International Summit be an international speaker. Now, the 4 groups are renamed as Irlandeses, Ulandeses, International Observers for Irlandeses, and International Observers for Ulandeses. Irlandeses speak using I, while Ulandeses speak using you. Both of them use mimics and gestures to make themselves understood. They greet each other, explain what they want, thank and farewell. Negotiations will be interrupted in case somebody makes something strange, disrespectful, or offensive, and learners will have to analyze why the interruption occurred. The objective is to make learners observe attentively the way in which their mates interact and what their customs and languages are like. Intercomprehension favors a converging block on several languages proceeding from the same language family. It grants for language inferences in learners so that to make them conscious about the ability to understand new languages. The plurilingual theater, el teatro plurilingüe, is an example of the intercomprehension approach application. This project, created and coordinated by Olga Ivanova, is aimed at all age learners and concerns Spanish, English, French, German, Italian, and Portuguese languages, as well as Spanglish, Portuñol, and other mixed varieties. The chief intention of El Teatro Plurilingüe is to raise learners' awareness about their ability to understand and know languages, and about cultural and linguistic misunderstandings that social multilingualism may entail. The 60-minute projects consist of 9 scenes represented to adult pupils of the official School of Languages of Salamanca. Spectators are not passive recipients. They are involved through participating in a global survey, which takes place between scenes. At each break, learners are asked to answer 2 questions, which suggest them to reflect on why misunderstandings occur. The work of theater used in this activity was written by Olga Ivanova under the title Vuelo con destino a flight bound for. Numerous false friends and interferences are played with in the work in order to turn learners conscious about vulnerabilities and possibilities of multilingualisms. In conclusion, pluralistic approaches make an innovative and necessary methodology in language learning in the modern multilingual world. In contrast to traditional methods of language learning, pluralistic approaches consider our society as multilingual and multicultural, and stand up for the development of plurilingual and pluricultural competence of each speaker. Though it seems clear that pluralistic approaches go in line with current social necessities, their application is far from desirable. In part, this is due to the methodological doubts that their application may cause in language teachers. In this paper, we have tried to contribute to the solution of these doubts through sharing our own experience in application of the intercultural, integrated didactics, awakening to languages and intercomprehension approaches. We sincerely hope that it will encourage language teachers to consider pluralistic approaches in their pedagogical practice, in order to lean towards plurilingual education in our multilingual world.